Michael, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, should we be seeing the agenda up on the screen or?
Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Great.
I can switch it to agenda if you want me to.
No, that's good. You can just leave that up for the moment. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us for the fiscal year 2022, albeit a little late, annual meeting of the Columbus Amsterdam Bid. I want to just give a big thank you to all the staff that's worked tirelessly for the last year and a half. We had our last bid board meeting in, I believe it was June or July of 2021. Unfortunately, we had some issues that delayed us from having this meeting. But again, I want to thank the street team who's continued their work. I want to thank Peter for his work over the last year and a half in continuing the bids Open Streets, which has definitely been a welcome return since the pandemic has, for the most part, turned into an endemic, and we're all learning to live with COVID and its issues. So I would also want to give a thank you and speak a little bit about, I'm going to let Peter speak for a moment. So Peter, if you'd unmute yourself for a moment, he has an announcement to make.
Yes, and I'll talk a bit about it more, but there is a succession committee that has been working for a while to pull together things so that I can transition out and retire. So the idea will be to bring in a new executive director over the next 9 months, 12 months. In December of this year, I will be retiring. So I will mention that later on, but thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Yes, so again, the succession committee has been working to ensure that the bid can continue its important work in the community, which unfortunately, after many years, means we're going to have to say goodbye to Peter. He's worked tirelessly and diligently for some 23, 24, maybe more years. And I know everyone has come in contact with him, seen him at Open Street, seen him walking through the neighborhood, and just knowing his commitment to the neighborhood and to the bid is are going to be some big shoes to fill. But I want to thank the succession committee for their work in, like I said, ensuring that we continue this important work. So I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, which is the approval of last year's minutes. Michael, if you'd be so kind as to put those on the screen.
So this is part 1 of 2 slides. So this is the first half.
Okay, so we'll leave each slide up for about a minute or so to give everyone an opportunity to review them, and then we'll take a vote on adopting them.
Got it. And I have a poll for the vote if you guys would prefer that over.
Yes, I think the poll would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll switch over to the second slide now.
Yes, please. Thank you.
And so now I'm going to launch the poll, and for the board members, please choose one of the options.
Michael, I haven't chosen not to vote. I've just been informed that I, as a panelist, cannot participate in the poll, but I give my vote to adopt.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. And so I'll let this poll run for another 15 seconds, and then I'll let you know. Okay. And we have 12, including your vote, Robin, for approval to adopt. All right, minutes have been adopted. And now we have the bid board members elections for 2022. And so this is the ballot for the board members up for election this year. We have three classes that we have here. We have property owners, which is Laura Levon Dole, Arnold Baker, and Jeff Olivares going up for re-election. Class B merchants, we have Victor Martinez, who has been our board member, going up for re-election with alternates as Kai and Eleanor. For Class C residents, we have Carla Gomez, a new member for our bid board, with an alternate of Dan Cohen. And while I put up the poll for voting, please vote for your specific classes. So if you're a property owner, vote whether you approve or unapprove of the property owners. Class B merchants approve for your or unapprove for your class, and same thing for residents. While this happens, Peter has a few words to say about our new class resident. Peter?
Yes. Hi. Just 1 second, getting my screen cleared. I wanted to speak for a moment about Carla Gomez. She was nominated for our resident post. Carla has lived in the neighborhood on Amsterdam Avenue her entire life. Her family has been active in the neighborhood for many years. She's a recent graduate of Lehman College and works now with placing traveling nurses. I believe Carla's enthusiasm and insight will make her a wonderful addition to the board. She was recommended through Kathy Lenoir, who is retiring. She also worked with us as a volunteer when she was younger. I hope to welcome Carla onto the board, but we'll wait for the election for that. Thank you, Michael.
Got it. And I'll let the election run for another 20 seconds, but.
Michael, again, I can't vote, but I'll email you my vote.
I will take a moment now to also thank Kathy Lenoir. She is retiring. She has represented residents on our board since 2002. Kathy's influence in the neighborhood began long before the bid. Along with raising her own 2 children here, she was a second mom or guardian angel to many. She was also a fierce defender of neighborhood life, unafraid to confront and stop threatening and disruptive actors. She also transformed her block as the head of the 107th Street Block Association. She's been a valuable resource and voice on the BID's board, and we are grateful for her service. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. I don't know if she's able to be on tonight. Her caregivers were not available to be with her tonight, so I'm not sure she was able to log on.
Got it. Okay, so we got the elections back. I was informed that you did have to vote for all 3 classes. But so we'll have to split up the votes based on categories, based on your registration later on, but everyone got approved for yes, so there were no no's on any of the classes. So that's an approval for all the new board members.
Michael, were you going to read the names of the other board members?
Yes, so now that I have the results up, let me stop sharing those.
Before
All right,
you
so
do,
Mhm.
I will say that we'd like to remember Clyde Tate, who is a valued past board member who passed away this last May. Clyde was active in the area, working with property owners and with sweat equity buildings to match tenants with apartments. His dedicated promotion of this neighborhood was very much appreciated, and his presence will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So now to mention a few of our board members from the other election year. So these members are all the way through 2023, and we'll have an election for these members on our next annual meeting, which we will announce in the coming months. But now a quick note about Jim Mackin and his introduction to the Bloomingdale History Group. And I'll play a video from him at the walking tour that he had most recently.
Okay, hi there. I'm Jim Mackin, and I'm the author of this book, Notable New Yorkers of Manhattan's Upper West Side, Bloomingdale, which is this neighborhood, and Morningside Heights. And I welcome all of our regulars here on behalf of the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group, but maybe more importantly, the Columbus Amsterdam Business Improvement District. And boy, are we going to have fun today. We do this every month. Once a month, we go off in some different direction. We usually start here at Strauss Park, but sometimes we leave from the Hostel building on Amsterdam Avenue. Sometimes we leave from Broadway and 96th Street. But today we're going to go to the site of the Lion Brewery, the largest employer in this neighborhood for over 150 years. And boy, does that tie in wonderfully to the Columbus Amsterdam Business Improvement District, because they capture and serve all of the wonderful restaurants and taverns in our neighborhood that serve beer. And this brewery that we're going to go to, it isn't there anymore, but we're going to make much of it, was the 6th largest brewery in the country in its heyday. And I can see people are already a little bit surprised by all of that. So we're going to have fun exploring that. So again, thank you, Columbus Amsterdam Business Improvement District. We give you a shout out for the annual meeting, but thanks for all that you do in the community. And we'll see a lot of these people and myself at future monthly walks. Thank you very much. Yay,
And those were some lovely words by Jim Mackin. Let me see if I can.
Thank you, Michael. I think that we wanted to bring on Jennifer because she has a time commitment that she's trying to make.
Right.
And I wanted to just quickly say thank you to all of our board members and our staff for your hard work. These have been challenging but stimulating times. The last few years where 7-day work weeks have been the norm. There have been hiccups, and I want to apologize for the postponement of this annual meeting. but working together, we've been able to support and enrich our neighborhood. I've already mentioned that I've set a retirement date for the end of 2023 and that the succession committee is in place. They've been working hard to prepare for this transition, and I want to thank them for their work as well. Together, we can ensure that the bid will continue to serve this vibrant, diverse neighborhood, such as Jim just demonstrated. His work with the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group has been tremendous. So we're now moving on to Jennifer Maya Luz Pliego, is the artist behind the Good Neighbors collection of photos of people from our neighborhood that is currently on display at Annabelle Avila's Playground on 108th Street. She's also the director of special projects at El Taller Latino Americano, which has provided arts, culture, and language lessons in the neighborhood and around Manhattan for decades. She has recently been researching the story of Annabelle Aviles, and she will share that with us tonight. Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. First of all, it's really a pleasure to be here. This is such a vibrant community, and I, for one, feel so happy to be a part of it. I think that you guys have slides of mine. I don't know if that's true. If it's not, I'll just talk.
Yeah, we have
the
the ones from the previous ones, but not the new ones. Is it okay if I
Oh.
share the old?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I sent everything to you, but we'll sort that out later. I mean, they're not that much different.
Got it.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the Good Neighbors Project, because that's sort of the first layer in this whole story of how we even got to be able to concentrate and have some support to do the installation that you can see in that middle picture, which is a artistic rendering of Anibal when he was a student at Booker T. Washington High School. But I have been doing the Good Neighbors Project since 2010. It coincides actually with the first Bloomingdale Families Days that the bid offered, when El Taller was asked to provide some artistic projects for local kids. And I started photographing the neighbors. And I think, right, I mean, we live here and we know what an incredibly diverse and interesting community that this is. It's unbelievable that this neighborhood has seemed to withstand the gentrification that has really changed the culture, both north and south of this community, as well as it has. So I've been documenting that in a sense, just from the human side of it, so we can remember what it was like, and that it becomes a document of, in particular, the kind of peace that we experience here after probably times when it wasn't so peaceful, because we know the history of the Upper West Side. But it also documents, I think, Black and brown people in a way that they aren't normally seen. And I think that was also a really important thing, speaking as a Latin person, to recognize and to document. So we can go on to the next slide. Yeah, I'll just move up. So one day we were talking about the idea of showing artwork in the playground, and Dan Cohen and Peter asked me what I thought about doing a big installation or some kind of mural on the wall of the parking garage that is just south of the playground. Well, actually, sorry, it's just east of the playground, in the garage that's closest to Columbus Avenue. And we said, that sounds great. And we were able to do a lot of fundraising the installation that we looked at before we started looking at the slides was a big collaboration between the Department of Cultural Affairs, City Council, the New York State Council on the Arts, the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, the Jacob and Ruth Epstein Foundation, Valley Restoration, the Columbus Amsterdam Business Improvement District, and El Taller Latinoamericano. So with all of that support, we were able to do this rendering of Anibal. The little photograph on the right-hand corner is the artistic spec that we used, which comes directly from his basketball team photograph from 1962. We found his yearbook, and Anibal is in the middle holding the basketball. He was captain of the basketball team in 1962. He was a well-known athlete in this neighborhood. You can go to the next slide. And here he is with his platoon. At 17 years old, he went to join the Marines. He decided not to go to high school. This was a choice that we have researched that a lot of kids of his generation did, especially kids who came from poor backgrounds. They felt that this was a way to get out of the neighborhood and get a better life. He was really enthusiastic about going to the Marines and not very enthusiastic about continuing, we'll say, more standard education. Unfortunately, it was the time of Vietnam, and you can go to the next slide. He did his first tour, and then he came back to the neighborhood. In 1966, he went on his second tour, and sadly, he did not survive that. The people that worked in the playground, who were more of a steady presence than we have employees in the playground today, really knew Anibal quite well. He knew a lot of the kids in the neighborhood. They called him Parky, and he was kind of like a second father. He recommended to the parks commissioner that the playground be dedicated to Anibal, and it was rededicated to his name in 1969. We thought that this was a really important story to tell. It was really important to find photographs of Anibal and to contextualize him as a good neighbor, a kid from the neighborhood in this way, because his is a really vulnerable story to be lost. He is not rich. He is not famous. He is not a donor. He is not a politician. He is just a kid from the neighborhood. So for the time being, we have this installation up, and you can go to the next slide. Along with El Taller's work with the Grady Alexis Gallery. So this was our pandemic response to being able to continue the art gallery's practice of exhibitions. We have been using the playground as an exhibition space since the end of 2021. So far, we have done 5 exhibits. We rotate them about between 2 and 3 months. The next one will be going up. Right now, we have a really diverse show, which is the history of 30 artists that come from El Taller's 43 years of service as a not-for-profit organization. That will come down in at the end of March. You can go to the next show, the next slide. So here's some pictures of our art on the fences. It's pretty simple, but we've gotten a lot of really heartfelt feedback on it. You can see how the installation on the wall really helps to create a site and we hope that, the kids and the families in the neighborhood and visitors who come really enjoy it. It feels like a different playground with all of the art around it. You can go to the next slide. Here are some ideas about what we have for upcoming shows. the artist Hollywood, who does these very kind of humorous paintings. This artist, Andrea Arroyo, who is originally from Mexico, but her work is real renowned, and she's done a lot of public work. The photograph in that right-hand corner is her outdoor exhibition at the Hispanic Institute, on 155th Street. So we'll do something similar in the fence on 108th Street. You can go down to see a couple more ideas of artists that we'll have during 2023. Oh, just one, because it's the other slides. Teriso Anaya is an artist originally from Colombia. His work is all deals with nature and has kind of like this magical realism, naturalistic bent to it. So we can go down. One thing I wanted to mention is in some ways, all of this is very temporary. You probably all know that the playground will be going up for renovation, and that garage, which is the last garage on the block, will be demolished sometime in 2024. I reached out to the Parks Department to see if they would be interested in reincorporating some of the art around Anibal in particular, and they said that no, not so much. So it's something, I mean, this is my appeal to the community, that if this is something that's of interest, then I leave it to you all to discuss that with the Parks Department further to see how we could save this story, because they're just really happy having that little green plaque with the story that they have. But we felt that didn't really tell his history or contextualize him in a way that was appropriate for the community. So please, show your support if this is something that you all would like to continue. We think that it's been a really interesting project. We've really enjoyed it, and we've gotten a lot of really great feedback about it. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Jennifer. So now we'll be going to Emily Edwards, who is.
Michael, I'd like to introduce Emily, if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
So quickly, if there was ever proof positive of the value of having an internship program, it's Emily Edwards. Emily interned for the bid during her time at Barnard. She impressed us from the start. Her dedication, attention to detail, and calm demeanor quickly made her someone I relied on. Luckily for me, I've been able to continue to rely on her as she graduated and joined SBS, the Small Business Services of New York City, which oversees the city's bids. She's been generous with her guidance and perspective, and she's been promoted through the ranks and has recently become the executive director for bid programs and organizational development. I'm excited to introduce her as our guest speaker tonight. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Peter. This is the first time I've been asked to speak at a bid event, so I'm appreciative and honored to be back at Columbus, Amsterdam. As Peter said, he is really the reason why I ended up in this work and in the bid world. So it's nice to be back here. I know I'm one of the many people who have benefited from an internship, a part-time job, a volunteer opportunity, or some other special project at Columbus Amsterdam Bid. As long as I've known Peter, he always has a few interns around doing different projects in and out of the office, really being the face of the bid. And I'm pretty sure that Barnard and Columbia only knows what bids are because of Peter and his outreach for these internship opportunities. So my internship at the bid gave me a lot of valuable experience. Like many students at Barnard or Columbia, I was pretty stuck in the bubble above 110th Street for my first few years. But once I started working for the bid and walking down to the the bid office at 109th a couple times a week. I felt like my world grew a lot, and I got to know a neighborhood that a lot of students really never do. I became a regular at the bodega across the street from the office. I would frequently pick up lunch at Frida's or Tropical Sensation, and would often go get a croissant at Le Toulousain, which I know sadly is no longer there. But looking back, I think like that's really when I started to feel like a real New Yorker, when I felt like part of a community and that I knew kind of the special places there, and the people behind them. One of my jobs at the bid was to deliver the monthly events calendar, which honestly, I think some of us did not like doing because we had to walk around a lot in all kinds of weather. But it was like the best opportunity to get to know the neighborhood. And if we went with Peter, you know, we could tell that everyone knew who he was. People shared their news, their challenges, their problems, really everything Peter ended up hearing about. So it was really a crash course in community engagement and the importance of, you know, local support for a commercial corridor. So after my year at the bid and after I graduated, the Department of Small Business Services was growing the team that oversees all the business improvement districts in New York, and I applied. And I'm sure that my experience being at a small bid really helped me get the job. And just interrupt me if you want to let Gail speak up. I see she just joined. So if you didn't know, there are now 76 business improvement districts across all 5 boroughs. They come in every shape and size, ranging from budgets of $70,000 to $20 million. Some cover 2 blocks, some cover 2 miles. A lot of people know like Times Square Alliance, Bryant Park Corporation, but more bids are actually like Columbus Amsterdam, our small budget, small staff, and the staff wear many, many hats. So at SBS, part of my goal has been to share the story of small bids and their vital role. One of my first projects when I started was updating our annual bid trends report, which reports on what the bids in the city are doing. So I gathered and added success stories to try to exemplify the really unique roles that bids can play in neighborhoods and in the city. And I think the bids role became especially essential and evident during the pandemic. Bids set up calls or text messaging services to connect merchants and keep them informed. They sat down one-on-one with business owners and helped them apply for grants and loans. Bids helped businesses set up websites or get onto delivery platforms so that they could continue operating while people, you know, weren't eating inside. When things did begin to reopen, bids in New York City distributed almost 2 million masks and 30,000 hand sanitizers to keep everyone safe as things reopened. And of course, the bids helped stand up the open restaurant program, the open storefront program, and the open street program, which Peter mentioned and Robin mentioned. I think Peter's been spending his weekends for about 3 years making that happen. Ultimately, bids play a role that the government just can't do. Bid staff like Peter and Michael know every corner of every block. You know, they know the business owners' names, their stories. They know where people maybe double park or drive too fast. And city agencies really will never have that kind of intimate knowledge of a neighborhood. And I think it would be difficult to find someone more knowledgeable than Peter. And I have 2 stories I remember that I think demonstrate his commitment to this job. First, when I was working at the bid, Peter had a hip replacement surgery. And the day before his surgery, he was out on the streets shoveling snow with the street team, you know, working up until the last minute possible. And post-surgery, he was definitely back in the office as soon as he could walk down the stairs. Another was that there is always a major rat problem in the Green Street on 110th and Amsterdam. Maybe it still is. But I remember Peter would get out there and, you know, himself, he would pour buckets of water down and try to solve the problem really hands-on. And I think Mayor Adams would be appreciative and proud of that, given his focus on rat reduction. So Peter really wears all the hats, and especially hats that no one else wants to wear. And over the past 6 years, I've tried to carry what I learned from Peter and this community to my citywide position. I have a better understanding of the reality of running a small nonprofit, and the important role that bids can play to the local stakeholders. I think I have more empathy also for the difficulties and challenges of the staff and the boards of directors of these small organizations. So I'm just going to give 2 examples of how SBS has been working to try to support small bids. Columbus Amsterdam is one of those. One was that this year we launched a grant program specifically for small bids with small budgets. And the goal of the program was to increase the capacity so these bids can provide more programs and services. We ended up awarding more than $3 million to 40 bids across the city, including Columbus Amsterdam. And throughout the rest of this fiscal year, those bids will now be able to expand their sanitation services, develop new marketing programs, install public art, host public programming, and more. Lots of great impacts on neighborhoods across the city. And we are hoping that the funding gets renewed next year so that we can do it again, but we're not sure yet. And another way that we're trying to even the playing field for all bids is to provide equal access to other city agencies. You know, New York City government can really be a big bundle of red tape. It's hard to find the answer you need or get in touch with a real person. So in my time at SBS, we've developed programs and systems to try to connect bids to city agencies, especially around issues of quality of life and public realm issues. During the pandemic, we launched the Commercial Corridor Recovery Task Force, which brings bids and city agency staff together on a regular basis. And at those meetings, we try to come up with solutions to specific local tangible problems, as well as discussing sort of big picture policy issues that are challenges to our neighborhoods and commercial districts across the city. Every bid gets invited to these meetings. Every bid gets to participate regardless of size, budget, connections. You know, everyone gets the same sort of treatment. A few issues that keeps coming up at those meetings that we're working to address are the future of the open restaurant program. There's a lot of questions around what that will look like. Street vending enforcement, commercial waste zones, getting trash off the streets and the sidewalks, homelessness, mental health, drug use, you name it. We know that one single agency, one person won't be able to solve those hot button issues. So that's why those sorts of coalitions of the bids, agencies, community members is really so important. The city agencies need to hear the on the ground perspective that the bids provide. What are they seeing and what are they hearing from constituents? So working in city government can feel very overwhelming and frustrating at times. I'm part of a bureaucracy of 300,000 employees. I hear so much from all the bids about what isn't working, and I usually can't fix it. But when I can help a bid solve a problem that helps their corridor or business, it definitely feels worth it. So I'm glad, grateful, happy I get the chance to continue working with Columbus Amsterdam bid and with Peter. And please let me know how I can help the district and the neighborhood.
Emily, thank you so much. Your leadership at SBS has been tremendous, and we're looking forward to your new position and your role there. So thank you again.
Thank you. And I can put my contact information in the chat for anyone that has questions about bids or any other city government concerns.
Okay, thank you. And we have been joined by Gail Brewer, City Council member and prior the borough president for Manhattan. Gail has done a tremendous amount of work for us and with us in this neighborhood and in the larger West Side, and before that with all of Manhattan. So with no further ado, I'd love to have Gail able to speak.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Peter. I'm a big fan of Peter Arndt and also the bid and the way that you approach the hands-on. So I agree with Emily in terms of your amazing leadership. So in the city council, the main issue right now is the budget. It's I think it's going to be contentious, but interesting. The city council just posted a little while ago the city council hearings for the month of March. So if people are interested in testifying, I think your input would be phenomenal. Obviously, sanitation, NYPD, health department, there's no end to the list of types of businesses and agencies that you deal with. So just so you know, that's up there. And I'm on the finance committee, I'm on budget negotiation, and I'm in the leadership. So I hopefully can play a bigger role in the budget. In terms of just legislation, one of the issues that's coming up now, and it's really complicated, are the deliveristas. And I'm very fond of the 65,000 folks who deliver food. There's two aspects. One of the batteries. I don't know how it's going to end up. I think there'll be passage in a couple of weeks on some bills that they don't love, but we have to stop these fires. There was another one yesterday, another one today, and people are dying and the property's getting destroyed. So, and there's a big push by the fire department, yes, to support our bills, but also to get the federal government to tell the manufacturers that they have to do certain kinds of bills and make sure they're tamper-proof. That's my layperson's version of a battery. But meanwhile, we have to figure out what we're doing locally. So I have a bill that says you can't sell refurbished batteries. We'll see what happens. That's we also want the fire department to do even more. They're doing some safety information. That's number one. Number two is, of course, the smoke shops and the cannabis. So as you know, I don't know, when we went from 54th to 108th Street, mostly west of Broadway, but still on Broadway, 63 smoke shops, 63. And we have been working hard with the sheriff, with the district attorney, with all the other elected officials, with the corporation council and NYPD to come up with some ideas. One of them is an old law that was from, I think, the 80s that says if you have an illegal activity, meaning selling drugs in your building as an owner, you can get padlocked by the district attorney. That's the short version, and they'd have to go to court first. But at least something, because going with the sheriff is lots of fun, but you do 3 stores a day, and there are 1,400, 400 in Manhattan. So if you do the math, you're going to be doing that for quite some years and getting nowhere because they open up the next day. So just so you know, we're still cracking down on the cannabis for 2 reasons. High school kids and other kids are vaping and it's very bad for their academics, according to parents and principals. And when we have legal shops, it's not good to be undercut by those that are all legal all around you. So I mentioned that. The other thing is, I think there's a lot of push for different kinds of city benefits to be available. And so how do you do that? Is you have people in the office. So I have been talking for months about, okay, Mr. Mayor, we know that everybody should be working 5 days a week, but they're not. And so you should consider hybrid. No, Gail, we're not doing it. Well, today he said, oh, maybe we'll consider hybrid because without it, nobody's going to work for the city. And even the papers today, the people who represent the tech workers, I mean, God, they're not coming in full time, or they're going to go to work in the private sector. So what I'm saying is, in addition to having certain bills that talk about better city benefits and the ID NYC application being available to more people, and having somebody in the office to help you get food stamps, SNAP, and vouchers, somebody has to be there. So I believe government should work for the people. It's not working for the people now. So I just mentioned that the vacancy issue is to be solved if we're going to have some of these services. I'm frustrated by not the commercials, but the residentials on the organics. Curbside organics is available at Community Board 7. It's really hard to get people to do it. So I don't know if you have any suggestions. I've been trying really hard. I did have a wonderful walk. It was on Broadway, which I know is not your area, from 96 to 106 with Manhattan Sanitation and, of course, local sanitation, 7 superintendent. And it was, you could eat off the floor because he had obviously cleaned it, to his credit, Chief Leary, before we got there. There was one spot, but otherwise it was spankling clean, and I hope it stays like that. We're going to go back and check. I just want to talk about the budget. The hearings will be in March. Between now and then is a real push to see how we can, talk in groups. And if you have any suggestions about what you want in the budget as a bid and as people who care, please let me know. I want to mention something that's just back to the deliveristas again. There is a proposal by the city to put a charging stations. We need charging stations in Community Board 7. And so the city suggested a vacant newsstand at 71st and Broadway. Oh my God, there were like 149 people against it. I think there were 6 people for it at Board 7. So I don't know if that spot or another spot. I will work with the deliveristas, engineers, and their architects, and we'll look at it. I want a charging station in Board 7. And if that doesn't, I have some ideas for Plan B. The city should be a little bit better about selecting places and working with the community, but we know that's a problem. I want to just mention Soldiers and Sailors is a monument in the park. It has nothing to do with your area, but please feel free to come Memorial Day at 10 o'clock to 89th and Riverside, because this is a monument, Civil War, very devoted following from the community. You know, the Navy will be there, the band, I hope the mayor, because he just gave us $63 million to renovate it. Now that's a big deal. And I am so happy because I begged for that money. So we are doing very quickly, February is Black History Month, and down at Lincoln Center, we're doing an event in the evening. On the 23rd of February, we have our second older adult tech clinic. This is so popular on March 22nd. 1 o'clock at St. Agnes, which is on 82nd Street in the library. Bring your phone, your computer, your laptop, and experts will tell you what to do with it if you don't know. We're doing a local law 97, which is controversial, but has to get passed, I think, and implemented on March 21. We have all the deadlines coming up, February 21, February 23rd for budget. That's perhaps the most important of this entire conversation. And we have participatory budgeting with topics that are of interest to you from March 25th to April 2nd. We have our SCREE every single month. We're meeting with the Department of Finance in our office. That's March 14th. We have people here on a regular basis to help on SCREE. The housing clinic, which is every month, this month it's March 1st. I want to just mention vendors and open restaurants because I heard you talk about. So with the vendors, I meet with the vendors pretty regularly. I know they're waiting to see when there are new 465, you probably know better than I, the exact number, licenses to be given out. Everybody's waiting, they need more. And the issue is, will there be enforcement that's appropriate and working with the street vendor project? So let's see what happens, but I know that I'm a big supporter of the vendors, but they have to follow rules just like everybody else, and they're working on a green generator. So that's something that I've been pushing for a while. The open restaurants, it's still in committee. Nothing has happened. Nobody should say it's over. It's not over. I don't know if there'll be a second hearing. I think there should be, but I don't know if there will be. And the issue is, who is the enforcer? Is it DOT or is it Consumer Affairs? I think DOT makes more sense. Some people think Consumer Affairs. Consumer Affairs does not want this job. So that's a whole topic all by itself. Make sure you get our newsletter because it's excellent. I don't say that because it's me. It's the person who writes it in my office is brilliant. Not me. He's brilliant. So thank you very much, Peter, for everything that you do. You're a hero. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And we really appreciate, we've worked with Gail for a number of years, and it really has made a difference for us. We have Sean Abreu, our city council member, waiting to speak. We also have two of our police officers. We had intended to have Deputy Inspector Yaguchi, but he retired on Sunday. And a new commanding officer, Captain Lazarus, began on Monday at midnight. So neither of them are able to speak tonight, but we do have two of our officers, I think, that are out on patrol. So Sean, is it okay if we let them speak for a minute?
Yep, that's perfectly fine.
Thanks. Michael, can you put them through? Are they still available?
They should be able to unmute themselves right now if they need to talk.
So Officer McLeod or Flores, if you're able to unmute yourself, you're welcome to speak.
I believe they left the meeting, so if you want to.
Okay, they were in a patrol car. They were going to quickly say that to meet the new commanding officer, you can go to the precinct community council meeting, which is typically on the third Wednesday in the evening. So that would be one way to meet the new commanding officer. There's
It's right now,
also-
Peter.
What's
It's
that?
right now, the meeting. The meeting is right now.
Okay, yes.
I'm
So-
going right now. So.
Got it. The other way would be to come to one of their Build-A-Blocks. So if there's a possibility of finding out and attending one of the Build-A-Blocks, there are different sectors. We are in one of this, we're in Sector Charlie, if I remember right, and regularly attend their Build-A-Block meetings, which can always use more people. And it's a way of letting people know what you're experiencing out on the street and how they can help. So with no further ado, Sean, you are our city council member. Thank you for coming out tonight.
No, thank you, Peter. It's always hard to follow Gail, but here I am. I just want to thank you. It's a pleasure to be able to bring greetings this evening for the annual bid meeting. Put simply, I'm very grateful for the partnership between our office and the bid as we endeavor to improve this business environment and the quality of life around this vibrant hub. We partnered for some events this past year, which we're grateful for Halloween, and looking forward to more fun activities with you this upcoming year. Last year, we, in our first year of office, we were able to do some serious work, setting a path for clean streets and improved economic opportunity. We passed legislation that would change set-out times to decrease rats in the neighborhood. In the past, there would be 14 hours that garbage would sit out, and hopefully with our new bill going into effect in April, garbage will not be on the street for more than 4 hours. And so we hope that that's going to make a big difference. We also passed legislation creating rat mitigation zones to hyper-focus the city's efforts on problem areas like our district. In terms of the budget, we also funded increased litter basket service and additional funding to ACE, a program we work with to supplement sanitation services such as sweeping and power washing sidewalks. And of course, most importantly, Gail and I voted on the increased budget for the bid last year as well, which we were very happy to do and look forward to continuing that support. There's still a lot more we can do in partnership, and we look forward to hearing from you and supporting your efforts to grow this much-loved corridor. I love what I'm seeing. The open streets on the weekend, it's made our community so vibrant, Peter, and this is something I'm just so grateful for. Our hope is to have an open line of communication as we have had already this past year, so that we can keep meeting your needs in real time and provide solutions as we're able. We want to hear from you. The on-the-ground insight you provide is invaluable to us as we craft policy and advocate for the district. Thank you again for having me, and congratulations to the new board members.
Thank you, Sean. And let me just quickly say that we would love to have you out on the street. We will be reopening Amsterdam Avenue on Sunday, March 12th. And I think the plan is right now to have Columbia University Lion Dancers coming down. So come on out and join the fun. Please.
Thank you, Peter. Sounds good.
Okay, very good. Michael, did either of the officers show up or?
I don't see it unless you're one
Okay.
of the attendees, but I don't see their name or phone number on there either.
That's fine. Let's keep the meeting moving. We have a historical timeline.
Hold on. Do you want to do the financial report first?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Got it. Okay, so I'll be doing the financial report. Give me 1 second. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Gonzalez. I work with Peter at the bid as the program manager. So tonight I'll give you a little bit of a rundown on our financial report for our fiscal year 2022. So here first I want to start off mentioning that we did get an assessment increase approved last year. Our last assessment increase that we got approved was in 2014. So this is going to start taking place this coming June, making it a full 10 years since we got our last assessment increase implemented. And so basically we are increasing our assessment from $350,000 to $650,000, but in 3 to 4 year increments, or in increments that will span 3 to 4 years. So this year we'll just increase $100,000 for next year, and I'll go over to that reasoning in a little bit. So as you can see here, our cash in our bank is at a cushionable $320,000. Over here, our assets, including over here, is $69,000. That includes some other revenue that came in from reimbursement grants, security deposits that we have placement here. Overall, our assets are sitting at a pretty decent number. This is covers our financials for 1 year back at the end of June 30th, 2022. If you can see here, we have some designated board reserves for wayfinding, tree guards, and other stuff, contingencies that the board has designated in the previous years. Here we'll give you a comparison of the past 2 years and the audited reviews. You can see our assessment value has stayed the same. We've been able to increase our revenue by applying through federal grants, reimbursements, thanks to partners like SBS, DOT, and local organizations. We've also been able to increase our programming on open streets thanks to other grants and partners such as Jennifer Pliego, who's one of our speakers before, and other people from the neighborhood that were able to participate and make the neighborhood vibrant through their programming. Our staff and wages here, you can see we spent a decent portion of it through that, and our direct program expense, you can see, took a dip in 21, but we are starting to come back with that by implementing more programming on open streets. Our office rent was able to stay consistent throughout after pandemic and till now. And most of our other operating expenses have starting to see an increase within the past 2 years. So total expense, we've been going up a little bit, but the net result is that we're still saving a little bit based on all the grants that we've made. So we're doing okay, but with the new assessment increase, we wanted to make sure that we were in a good position when we transitioned from our current bid director to our new bid director. So we wanted to apply for that. And we wanted to make sure that Open Streets was well funded and we were giving it the attention that it needs. So what we've actually been spending that money on is kind of split up into different sections here. So you can see security is 6.7%. The neighborhood over here, you can see we spent a decent amount of, and this includes stuff like Open Streets participation, other sort of events that we partnered with, including, Build the Blocks, Peter attending Build the Blocks, the neighborhood having different music venues, art projects that we've partnered with. We've also done some promotion in the neighborhood. So we've run ads in the neighborhood for both our businesses through small business sweetheart campaigns, through other different materials that promote our local area, basically showing our diverse restaurants and making sure that they get the attention they need. And sanitation program is always one of our most important pieces of this project. Want to make sure that they are getting out there, making sure that the program is making the neighborhood clean. So they go out every morning from Monday through Sunday at 7 a.m. They go from 110th Street to 96th Street on both avenues and make sure that the streets are clean by the time your kids are walking to schools and other activities. Our Open Streets projects has been expanding and making sure that we're getting a lot of staffing for it. We're making sure that we're providing the right amount of people. It takes a lot of work to get the Open Streets to be a safe program. It takes a lot of effort to make sure that the streets are closed properly and that we're having the proper equipment out there to make sure that the neighborhood is getting, the programs, the performances, and enough different variety of different things for people of all ages. And of course, that all takes a little bit of management to make sure that that happens smoothly, planning ahead of time and everything. And so with the upcoming assessment increase, we're going to make sure that this is going to be something that we can sustain for the long run and making sure that we have a good transition from our current director to our next director. With that being said, Peter, do you want to introduce Dahlin?
Actually, I was going to start off with the historical timeline.
Okay, go ahead.
So we'll go to the next slide. And this is a historical timeline that has been, we're introducing tonight. It'll soon be available on our website. This project was led by Aaron Kaler, an intern from Barnard. We began it while transferring our archives to digital files and have worked to incorporate photographs we've taken over the years. Tonight, this will be a preview. Thank you, Michael. Next one. The bid has its roots in community efforts beginning in the mid-'80s. Local groups had been formed to try and deal with problems of building disrepair and abandonment. The nonprofits Manhattan Valley Development Corporation and Urban Homesteading Assistance Board worked with tenants to take over management of neglected buildings. Bloomingdale Family Program and Valley Restoration Local Development Corporation were local nonprofit initiatives addressing quality of life issues. We don't have pictures from this time in our files, but some of you may remember. At this time, drug gangs ruled the street, trees were used for knife practice, and you had to watch the sidewalk so you didn't trip over litter. In 1984, an exploratory committee was formed to create a bid in partnership with Valley Restoration. In 1987, the bid under district manager and local homesteader, Maria Soto, got its first contract with the city. Among the first projects from the bid's collaboration with Valley Restoration during this time were creation of a street cleaning crew, attention to trees and tree guards, installation of lights, and negotiation to open a youth hostel at Amsterdam and 103rd Street, in addition to graffiti removal. So we can go to the next slide. And Maria retired in 1997, and I was hired as the district manager. To put it bluntly, though, the bid was out of money. We had to get creative and develop partnerships to maintain services and pursue new goals. We limited our street cleaning teams to the morning. We reached out to stores to help with afternoon cleaning. We worked with the Summer Youth Employment Program and with Goddard Riverside's Greenkeepers to support this effort. We reached out to Con Ed for help with securing security lighting in the neighborhood and to the City Department of Transportation for new bike racks. We're working with concerned residents and with the police to take back building halls and doorways that were being controlled by drug gangs. One of our early partners in this was the nonprofit Westside Crime Prevention Program. In addition, we looked for ways to draw people to the neighborhood. We compiled, printed, and distributed monthly events calendars to publicize the presence of groups that provided activities and services and to attract residents and visitors to local businesses. We can go to the next. Beginning in 2000, we worked with the Parks Department to enlarge our tree beds and to install the first officially permitted tree guards around them. This helped our trees thrive and also provided a more unified look for our neighborhood sidewalks. We started to take on an identity. This was taken further by installing colorful seasonal banners on light poles. To tell the story of our neighborhood more widely, the bid helped informing the Park West Neighborhood History Group, now called the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group. This incredible group continues to do free monthly walks and talks. Next slide. We experimented with a shopper's guide, which evolved into our restaurant guide, providing exposure and support for our diverse ethnic mom and pop restaurants. To emphasize that diversity, we worked with restaurants to begin celebrating cultural holidays. It began with Mexican Independence Day and grew to include the Day of the Dead, Diwali, Sukkot, Martin Luther King Day, and the Lunar New Year. To beautify and unify the look of the neighborhood after business hours, roll down gates, which you can see in the second picture there from the left, were painted over. They had been covered with graffiti. They were repainted with a bright copper patina colored paint. So moving on to the next. In 2003, 4, and 5, we worked with the 106th Street Block Association to bring local musicians out to celebrate in the street. This showed us the benefits of highlighting local talent, which we continue to this day with the open streets, and was carried on with family days for a number of years. We took an active part in the renovation of local playgrounds, an effort that was championed by then City Council member Phil Reed. It began with Happy Warrior Playground down in the 90s, which was so successful that other local playground improvements were able to get funding. The New York City began its Weekend Walks program in late 2000s. We were able to leverage our relationships and that we had formed with artists and organizations through our events calendar to put on our Family Days Festival events, featuring music, arts, art activities, and play opportunities for children. Citywide programs like this have given us access to a much wider audience than our local neighborhood. They have helped us promote the area. Some of them that we have added are Make Music New York, where we provided venues for musicians from all over the city, and people came to find them here in our neighborhood. For Open House New York, we have provided tours of spaces and streets and told the story of our neighborhood. We can go on to the next. In 2010, with funding secured again by Phil Reed before his passing, we transformed with DOT and Parks Department a triangle of asphalt at 110th and Amsterdam into the Minerva Bernardino Green Street. It both beautifies the neighborhood and provides rainwater catchment. This was a project that we had advocated for with Community Board 7 and were able to get. Elected officials like Phil have been key to expanded services and better conditions. During these difficult times, we have worked closely with Danny O'Donnell, Gail Brewer, and most recently with Sean Abreu on specific projects detailed in the timeline. And they, along with Mark Levine, who subsequently had a satellite office in our storefront, have continued to actively support our neighborhood in the decades since. In the 2010s, bike lanes came to both Columbus and Amsterdam avenues. The BID worked as a mediator between local businesses and DOT to determine truck parking hours and locations. We also worked with DOT to install pedestrian islands and bike racks. The restaurant scene has continued to grow. We helped launch the Bloomingdale Restaurants website and ran a Taste of Bloomingdale fundraiser. The slogan was "Eat local for flavors of the world." We did this during our Weekend Walks family days. We can go on to the next. Okay, thank you, Michael. The Hosteling International building on Amsterdam and 103rd brings thousands of visitors into our area. Our historical information kiosk in front of the hostel, installed in 2018, tells the neighborhood's story for both residents and for visitors. And there you can see Mark Levine and Laura Dole cutting the ribbon for it. We can go on to the next, Michael. In 2019, we have many small businesses that have thrived and survived. And in 2019, we honored and highlighted their accomplishments as long-standing shops. The area has benefited from their stability and also their ability to grow and change with the times, staying relevant and continuing to draw people into the neighborhood. We hope that all of you can continue to support them. Thank you. At the beginning of the pandemic, we worked with restaurants to maintain an updated list of open businesses and their hours. The majority of our restaurants survived due to their flexibility and creativity, and we even added new restaurants during 2020. During the pandemic, we have continued to work to highlight local businesses with programs such as Small Business Sweeties and Small Business Wonder Women, which we were able to take advantage of social media promotions and publicize it throughout the city. Michael, I think we're okay. This is programs that we have focused on in FY22, our fiscal year 2022. Open Streets. In the summer of 2020, our bid began hosting one of DOT's Open Streets. Our history of working with the community organizations and residents gave DOT the confidence that we could close a major avenue or two on the weekend and make it work for the community. The earliest Open Streets simply provided room for residents to stroll, children to play in safe, socially distanced way. In 2021 and 2022, we've been able to add programming with funding from DOT and Small Business Services. As noted here, Open Streets would not be possible without the DOT, the MTA, and the 24th Precinct, which we very much appreciate.
Okay, do you want to go on to Dolly now?
What?
Or
Can we go on to the art in the neighborhood?
yes, there we go.
We have been privileged to help bring some amazing artwork to our neighborhood. You've already heard from Jennifer, whose photographs have captured the dignity and heart of our residents and workers. Here you can see Samantha on the right-hand side. You can see Samantha Holmes Mundio, honoring immigrant lace makers that was installed on 97th and Amsterdam for over a year as part of the DOT art program. On the left is Beatrice Caron's beautiful fence art that is permanently installed at the new West Side Federation for Senior and Supportive Housing on West 108th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus. You'd need to go by and take a look at it if you haven't seen it already. Our next one would be trees and tree steward volunteers. Yes. Trees and tree beds were among the bid's earliest projects, and they continue to be an important focus for us. The trees provide beauty, shade, and fresh air. We have planted over 5,000 spring flower bulbs since October. You can look for them to bloom in the coming months. In addition, Open Streets on Amsterdam will start up again on Sunday, March 12th, with the Columbia University Lion Dancers. As our streets come alive again in both these ways, I hope to see all of you out there enjoying our vibrant neighborhood. Along with looking back, we're also looking forward to the future with a series of community building visioning surveys. I want to introduce Dolan Atwell, a Columbia University intern who was involved with strategic planning for his home community back in Missouri. He's now helping us lead this process and will step us through the survey plans. Dolan, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Peter, for that introduction. I want to briefly share that I share many of the same sentiments that Emily discussed earlier, and I'm very grateful to Peter and the rest of the staff at the bid for this opportunity to work there and get to know the neighborhood better. I just got to New York in August as a first year here at Columbia, so it's been really nice getting to know the area through the bid and the neighborhood. But as Peter mentioned, back in my hometown in Missouri, I participated in a committee for the city on strategic planning and visioning for the community. And with Peter retiring at the end of this year and the bid transitioning to a new executive director, it's a very pivotal year for the bid. And so we believed that doing a long-term visioning, surveying process would be a good way to showcase the community where it's at and what people are wanting and needing and where we can help as we transition to a new director. So as you have seen through the timeline that Peter presented that was done by Aaron, we have had various 5-year goals in the past and documents and planning processes that have directly produced these programs and services that we have provided in the past and continue to provide today. And we also applied for a challenge grant through the city back in like 2012 to 2014, that in that application, we had to do a lot of planning for the future of how we would use those funds. And we really ended up using that application a lot, especially with Bloomingdale Family Days, which eventually turning into Open Streets and what we have today. So the first step in this process is just a brief survey of neighborhood affiliates, that being residents, merchants, business owners, property owners, workers. We're just trying to gather as much feedback as we can. And so it'll be less than 5 minutes. I'll go more into the details about the surveys on the next slide, but that's the first step of this whole process, is just seeing where we're at as a community and getting a sense of how different stakeholders may view things differently. And then in that survey, respondents will be able to indicate if they are open to providing more extensive feedback. And so then we'll have a second round of surveys for those people that indicated they want to provide more feedback, which will go into more detail and we'll be able to use to really hone in on specific needs for the community. And then we're going to take all those data points and do an internal analysis of the results and discuss with Peter and the rest of the staff and community as well about how we can utilize those responses as we transition into 2024. And that will be in a document containing our long-term vision. And our idea for that document is that we don't necessarily want it to be a strict outline and framework of goals and steps that need to be exactly met, but we want to more reflect the needs and thoughts of our different stakeholders in the community and present it as a resource for the new director to have as they step into the executive director role. Michael, you can go to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, these surveys are going to be collected from all the different stakeholders in our community. And so we really want to get feedback from business owners, residents, property owners, and even other affiliates. And you'll see the first survey, the brief survey being sent out sometime this month, hopefully very soon, and we'll be collecting responses all the way through about late March, early April. And then we'll shift to doing the second survey in April and May is what our current tentative plan is. And we want to do this outreach through emails, mailings, through the postal service, in person, especially in mid-March when we start Open Streets. We want to use that space and time to connect with people, understand what their thoughts are on the neighborhood, why they're here, what they enjoy about the neighborhood, why they came here. I see someone just asked, how do we receive these surveys? So what we're going to do first this month will be by email. So we'll be discussing based on the contacts that we have currently in the office, mainly through our newsletter emailing list, and some other contact information we have. It'll mainly be sent out through emails first. Of course, you can always contact our office by walking in at 991 or 990 Amsterdam. They're below 109th Street in Amsterdam, emailing us at info@columbusamsterdambid.org, we're also going to post it on our website, so you'll be able to see it there. So we're going to have a lot of different outreach methods to send out the survey. I hope that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't. Survey number 2 will be more extensive and go into more details about perceptions of the bid, and it will also be individualized to each person's different affiliations. So if they're a resident filling out the survey, it will have more questions targeted at about residential life and also consumer life. Whereas if it's a merchant, it will have more questions targeted at the business side of the neighborhood. And just keeping in mind this whole process, we believe it will be a good opportunity for us to promote what the bid has done in the past, what we're currently doing through our programs and services, and being able to establish and maintain connections with all of our residents and merchants and different affiliates in the neighborhood as we transition to a new director. And we just really want to make sure that this transition happens where we have the feedback from the community of what they're wanting to see. And we also capitalize on all Peter's years of experience here in the bid and his connections with people while we still can. Carla asked, will these surveys be offered in Spanish as well for the residents? Yes, we are planning to offer them in Spanish. I believe our plan right now is only English and Spanish. But yes, we'll have the online version also available in Spanish, mailings, paper and pen in Spanish as well. And we have staff in the office that will also be able to conduct in-person surveys in Spanish as well. Yes.
Thank you, Dallin. One of the things that this is a key, or that is key in this, is his last point in the slide there. Good opportunity to promote the bid and connect with people. The connections with the pandemic, we have lost a number of connections and need to update our contacts. So this is a key thing that should be able to be used for organizing for the new leadership coming in. So thank you, Dallin. And Michael, do you want to take it from there? I think we're going to be saying thank you to our board. Is that correct, Michael?
Right. So basically, a few more things is just to say thank you to our street team who have been working there day and night every week, basically 7 days a week, every morning from 7 a.m. to around 12 p.m. And they make sure that the streets are clean before everyone gets out and goes to work. They make sure that there are eyes and ears on the street. So if something is happening in the neighborhood, they're the first to let us know. If they find something that went missing, they report it back to us, and we've given it back to people who have lost it. They are the people they are the name that the bid puts out there every morning. So we wanted to say thanks to them. Next, we wanted to say to the program staff, both from fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023, who we wouldn't have had this presentation be possible without. So especially our current intern, Dallin Atwell, who is helping do a lot of this. And then of course, our other interns who have been working on other projects. So community outreach, environmental intern, and our newest and our tech intern, Wilbert Garcia, who has gone above and beyond tech also.
And Michael, I want to say thank you to you. You put this together, and I really appreciate it. And Michael has made a number of things happen around the office and with the open streets and with funding. So Michael's presence has been tremendously appreciated, and want to say thank you.
Thank you. And then to make sure to check out our new West Bloomingdale Restaurants website. So we've just updated recently, and we will be hoping to get more future updates on restaurants that are opening up. We have taken it up from, if you remember back in early 2020, we had our delivery and takeout guide. We have now switched back to just our restaurant guide again, but please check it out. We have made updates to it, and we plan to make more additions in the coming months. Also, to make sure not to forget to check in on our newsletters, we will be updating you with the Bloomingdale History Group. They are the local neighborhood history group that Peter mentioned in the timeline. They do monthly talks and walks, and they are very informational. I am also part of that group and help out with them. They have been working with the bid for over a decade now, if I remember right. And yeah, they do great history talks about the neighborhood. If you want to get to know more about the place that you live in or the neighborhood that you work in, they're a great resource. And finally, thanks to all of our bid partners. Again, a lot of our partnerships are the reason we can do so much that we do every day. We wouldn't be able to do half of the programming we do without our partners. So we wanted to say thanks to them and just appreciate everything that they do with us. And then now we have some closing remarks by our board president, Robin.
I just want to thank everyone for spending a good part of your evening with us tonight. I want to thank Michael for organizing this meeting and Peter for all the work you do just keeping the bid together. I want to thank our speakers, City Council Gail Brewer, Sean Abreu, Jennifer Pliego, Emily Edwards, and Dallin Atwell. And I think that while we're going to be very sorry to see Peter go, I think that the team he's crafted that we've heard from tonight is well on their way to ensuring the success of the bid for the long future. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night, and may I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Motion second, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Robin, thank you so much. You've been a tremendous help over the past couple of years during these difficult times, and really appreciate it. And the presence of the entire board has made a huge difference. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Everyone stay safe and be well.
Thank you.
Good night.
Make sure
Good night.
and follow us on social media if you guys are still here.
Have a
All right,
great
everyone.
night.
Good night.
Thanks. Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.